It is 12 noon. Welcome back to Three Man Front on a very, very busy Friday. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we'll talk to Blake Lovell from Southeastern 16, get his feelings on the college basketball season. That is the Southeastern Conference, including the Charles Bediako situation. In a matter of minutes, Nate Oats is going to step behind the microphone. It's not a new press conference. He always meets with the media on Friday when Alabama has a home game, and he is meeting with the media coming up in just a few minutes, and maybe we'll get a little bit more clarity in regards to the Charles Bediako situation, because as of this moment, all indications are is that he will suit up and play for Alabama tomorrow night against the Tennessee Vols.
Does he get his old number?
Good question.
I forgot what his number was.
Me too.
Conrad should know what his number was.
Yeah.
14.
14. All right. We'll see if he's going to be 14 tomorrow night. Joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. So excited this time of the year that we get an opportunity each and every Friday. Blake Lovell joins us from Southeastern 16, and despite his affiliation with Brian Edwards at times, we are going to allow Blake back on this program.
Oh, bless him. Hey, Blake.
I actually just talked to Brian an hour ago, and he said the same thing about you guys. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to both ways. It's all good here.
I tell you what, his basketball coach, Todd Golden, getting kind of chirpy.
Yeah, getting a little sassy against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Man, first and foremost, just your thoughts on where we currently are in college basketball and the Charles Bediako situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's if I'm Alabama, if I'm Nate Oats, if I'm an Alabama fan, this is the way it works. And if you feel like that this is your opportunity to make your team better and that someone else would try to do the same thing if you didn't, I get all that. And I completely understand. I think at the same time, we can all have the awareness and step back to say that if this is not your favorite team and it's any other team, we can see kind of just where this is headed and why this is probably not great for the sport. And I think, again, multiple things can be true here. And so, it is absurd. We were talking about this week as we're previewing this game. Never did I think I'd have to go into the numbers to start previewing a game on January 24th and look at a guy's numbers from 3 years ago that hadn't played for that team since then. And it's just kind of where we are right now. And I can understand why Todd Golden and Mark Pope and Stephen Pearl and other guys, Rick Barnes, I can understand why this is kind of a time where I don't think you're going to see coaches holding back when it comes to their true thoughts on this. But at the same time, until something is done to make this feel more like college basketball, which I don't think it ever will again, the way it used to be, but it's just going to keep happening, guys. And I don't think we can look at this and say this is going to be the last time something like this occurs in this current structure within college basketball.
Blake, you laid out how tough it is and having to kind of dust off the tape of Bediako to refresh yourself on his game, but potentially, and I know there's so many questions, but potentially what kind of impact on the court could this have for Nate Oats in this particular Alabama team?
Yeah, I mean, it can be significant just because I think if you're looking at Alabama this year and you're identifying the areas that they have struggled in at times, one of them, I think opponents are rebounding almost 35% of their shots, so they're giving up, that in terms of offensive rebounds, second chance types opportunities. Well, that's something that guy can probably be pretty good at when it comes to someone with that kind of size and length and the way we saw him affect the game, several years ago. And I think it's just, look, there's not been a team in the SEC outside of Kentucky that has had more injuries and in and outs for the rotation than Alabama. And it's just kind of one of those where I think when you see the way your front court depth has kind of taken a hit from either injuries and or just guys not maybe, playing to a level that they were expected to, I think you're absolutely looking at a scenario where there would be anybody in the SEC right now that would be able to plug in a Charles Bediako and say that's going to be a guy that's going to significantly impact the game for us and help us out. So, it's a matchup-based game. Tennessee's probably one of the best front courts in the SEC, just in terms of their overall dynamic of what they have to work with. So I think depending on how much he plays, he would have to be considered to make a factor, I think, in this game. Missouri, pretty big in terms of their size. They're one of the taller teams, just kind of the length they play with. Then, of course, Florida comes up next Sunday. So these are all teams that if you have Charles Bediako, you're going to feel like you're in a better position than if you don't, just because that's kind of the name of the game in the SEC. And when it comes to blocking shots and rebounds and those kind of things, he will make an impact.
Blake Lovell joins us every Friday here on Three Man Front as we talk SEC basketball. You can follow his work there at Southeastern 16. Those guys do an incredible job covering the conference. Quite a difference. Last year at this time, we're talking about the potential of 4 or 5 teams maybe being in the mix, maybe being on that one line that could potentially get to the Final Four and win a national championship, in which Florida did last year. In regards to this year, Blake, which teams do you have your eye on that could get hot and could be that team that ends up cutting the nets down come March Madness?
Yeah, and that might not be what everyone else wants to hear, but Florida is the team that looks the most like that again this year. Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's kind of eerie how similar it feels right now to the way it felt this time last year with Florida, where I think, what was it, that Auburn game? I remember specifically, they played that one as a couple weeks out from where we are now. That was a early February type game, but you just felt like they were starting to figure some things out. And I think they are kind of there now this year. They've won 5 in a row. Look at how many points they've been scoring. And their guard play is just so much better. And I think that right now, if you're asking me if I'm picking the SEC winner, and I realize we're only 6 games into conference play, but if I'm taking Florida the field, I'm probably taking Florida. Like, that's how confident I think that we probably should be in this Florida team right now, just based on the way they're playing. Their front court, could be the best in the country. We knew that coming into the season, but their backcourt has really picked it up. And I think, if you're looking at the other teams, that's what's so fascinating about the SEC this year, is that you can pick apart flaws with pretty much every other team in the league. I mean, Florida, you can do the same thing, just because, again, if they don't shoot the ball well, which they haven't all season, that can be something that gets them in one of these games. But whether it's Arkansas, whether it's even a team like Kentucky that's trending forward, even Alabama, who I think 3 weeks ago I said at full strength, I think Alabama's the best team in the SEC. But I don't know if Alabama's ever going to be at full strength the rest of the season. And so it's just kind of one of those where you can pick apart all these different teams, and you could see them win 3 or 4 games in a row in a tournament setting, or you could see them lose in the first round just based off of some of these potential flaws that are pretty glaring at times with the majority of these SEC teams.
Blake, try to break down what you've seen from Auburn so far this season.
Yeah, they have been a team that I think they've managed to win games in different ways over the past, 2 weeks or so. And I think that's a little bit more interesting to me, as a team that doesn't necessarily have to play, the 104 to 100, 90 to 88 games that they played those first 2 against Georgia and A&M. I know Stephen Pearl kind of mentioned that after the South Carolina game. He said, hey, we kind of needed one like this, to where you kind of have to grind your way to win, not just playing these high scoring games where you get away with bad defense. And, that's the thing, is like, we've been pretty hard on Auburn's defensive numbers this year. And, we've taken a little bit of flack for that, but you also have a coach who points out, he's making all these statements in the press conferences about how they've made 127 defensive mistakes or whatever. Like, those are things that, again, can be tracked. And those are the things that are going to keep you from reaching a certain ceiling when it comes to trying to get back to a Final Four or something like that. The good news for Auburn is that they have very elite offense. And I think that's going to be the thing in a league where they're not the only ones that really have struggled at times to defend this year. You've got a lot of really good offensive teams. And so they're going to be able to score it well enough, I think, to be right there with anybody. It's just, can they consistently get those defensive performances where they have great stretches of defense? They've had it much more in these last 2 games, but you have a lot of other teams in the SEC, which they're going to find out probably tomorrow, that are a bit better offensively than South Carolina and Ole Miss. And that's where, when you get into this string of games where you've got Texas coming up, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, all those, this is where I think we really find out what kind of defensive team this is going to be the rest of the way.
All right, so tell us about the Georgia Bulldogs. We're so used to talking about the Georgia Bulldogs in football, then all of a sudden you look up and they're 16-3, 4-2 in the SEC. What do you like about this Georgia Bulldog team this year?
Yeah, I mean, I was stunned a couple weeks ago when I looked up and said, wait a minute, is Georgia really playing at the second fastest tempo of any team in college basketball? And now they're first in adjusted tempo. When you look at it that way, their average offensive possession length is 14.7 seconds. It's just, I was not expecting this from Georgia this year. This is a team, no question, that I sort of swung and missed on the most, because I looked at the roster, I just didn't see it. But Mike White has seemingly said, you know what, let's go back to what worked back in the day. The reason he got the Florida job is all the success he was having at Louisiana Tech. And what were they doing at Louisiana Tech? They were getting up and down the floor a bit. And now, I mean, they are just pushing the pace. It is just a team that has seemingly said, hey, we realize that there may be some areas that we're not as talented as other teams. There may be some areas that we just can't match up, but what we can do is play faster. And we have the guard play to do it. And when you look at kind of what they've done, whether Jeremiah Wilkinson, Blue Kane, Smurf Millender, like go down the line, they've got some great guard play right now. And then, of course, they've got the big guy inside, Santo Cyril, and they've kind of become a team that's grown on me quite a bit. And I know they've got a team coming up tomorrow in Texas who's kind of been up and down, but I think Georgia is moving much closer to being an NCAA tournament lock right now. And when you look at their style of play, there are not a lot of teams, I think, that are going to be able to slow them down. And remember, even if you look at it so far, they have 3 losses on the season. They scored 94 points and 95 points in 2 of those losses. And then, of course, they only scored 77 in Florida. So they're going to put up points, and I think that's going to be a problem for a lot of teams based on what I just mentioned about kind of having some bad defensive teams in the SEC.
Blake, another team that I know we can pump the brakes because they've had a favorable first part of the schedule, and we knew that he would have an impact immediately. But what Bucky has brought to College Station and Texas A&M basketball, 15-4 overall, sitting atop the SEC. Tougher games coming up, but what do you see so far from the Aggies?
Yeah, they've taken advantage of the opportunities in front of them, and I think that's about all you can ask for right now because – when you look at the way their schedule has shaped out, I mean, getting, teams like LSU, Oklahoma, Mississippi State at home, that's been nice. But having to go on the road, and I know what happened at the end of the Auburn game, but to go on the road, win at Texas, quite honestly, should have won at Tennessee, lose that one in double overtime. Yeah, I mean, they've been fantastic. There's no other way to put it. I mean, you consider that they've had 2 losses since November the 14th, and both of those are in overtime. And so I think that you're looking at a team that we talk about figuring it out. I mean, they are working the system. And I said going into the year, I said, I think it may take Bucky another year to get the roster the way it needs to be to play that exact style that he wants to play. But guys, he's already got it together, and they're going to be a dangerous team. I don't think they're going anywhere in this SEC title race because you do look at their upcoming schedule. It gets tougher, but they're going to probably be 6-1 after tomorrow. And yeah, they've got a lot of confidence. So.
All right, so as you're looking at, we just talked about the team that has surprised you so far. In regards to disappointment, and I know there's still plenty of basketball left to be played, but so far through the first 3 weeks of the conference season, give us a team or two that you just do not see them pulling themselves up from where they currently are in the standings that you're disappointed in so far.
Yeah, boy, Kentucky would have been an easy answer 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Not so much anymore, but
right.
Right now, I think if you look at it, like Tennessee, they're 2-3. I think they have a very clear sort of ceiling when it comes to their offense, guys. Like I mean, their defense is still great. Like we shouldn't be knocking a team that's top 15 in the country defensively, but like it feels like there's a significant gap there from what they've been in recent years, where I think it was 5 years in a row they finished in the top 5 in defensive efficiency and all that. So I just think Tennessee's so frustrating offensively at times. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the country, so that helps. If you're going to miss a lot of shots, you better get some rebounds. But I don't know. I'm just kind of worried about them. I think that they're going to, maybe be one of those teams that finishes 9-9 in the SEC and runs into a hot shooting team in the first round. I think all the bracketologies recently has had them paired with Miami of Ohio. I can't think of a worse matchup
that would be
for this
bad.
Tennessee team than Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
So, you think about stuff like that with them. That's been pretty disappointing. I mean, honestly, the other teams, I don't know that there's anyone that's really stood out as just a huge disappointment because I think we kind of expected this. We did not think this league was going to be just, again, exactly what it was last year. You thought there could still be a chance to get 10 teams in the tournament. It just may be kind of where they've settled now, where you've got a lot of 4 seeds to 9 seeds or 10 seeds, something like that. You don't have 7 teams in those top 5 or 6 seed lines anymore. I just think that's kind of a hard ask for this group this year. So Tennessee, to me, is probably the one that we thought had the highest ceiling that seems to have lowered that the most. But, I mean, Oklahoma's also been just a complete mess, and I can't say I expected that either in what felt like a pretty pivotal year for Porter Moser there. They've lost 5 in a row, got to go to Missouri, play Arkansas. Their schedule gets even tougher. So I think that's one to keep an eye on. I hate to be, playing job security this early, but they're 1-5 and their schedule's brutal. Unless they turn it around, I'm just not sure how they get close to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that I would assume that LSU will probably be dusting off Will Wade's cell phone number, maybe, perhaps.
Well, that's the thing is it's one of those where, when the AD came out and basically, publicly put the pressure on Matt McMahon to make the tournament, that's when you knew they're probably already making that consideration.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's also a level of, I think a complete lack of awareness when it comes to is LSU actually paying attention to basketball
Right.
when it comes to their AD and others, because they've been missing their best player for 2.5 weeks. And so now they get him back. I don't think they're going to make it to the tournament, but again, I just think Matt McMahon's kind of run into a bit of a wall there at LSU when it comes to NIL and all this other stuff. And so unless they can turn it around, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
All right, you got to let us know how much snow ice are you expected up in your part of the woods?
I would take 3 feet of snow over any ice whatsoever. But you know how this goes, right? It's like 18 inches of snow on Tuesday. Today it's like, well, you're going to get close to 3/4 of an inch of ice. So that's going to be exciting. It sounds like.
Wow,
awful.
Nashville Metroplex, boy, that would be,
I saw in Dallas a
Yeah.
mother of 5 who went to 6 different grocery stores trying to find one loaf of bread to feed her 5 kids over the weekend and couldn't find it.
Goodness.
That is good. Not good stuff, but that is, man, that's terrible. All right, Blake, we appreciate it very much. Each and every Friday, you'll join us at noon as we break down the SEC basketball. Happy to have you back for another season, and you guys do an incredible job there. Check them out on YouTube. That's Southeastern 16. Follow them on Twitter, and just ignore anything Brian Edwards says, but listen to what Blake and the rest of the guys say.
That's right.
That's all you got to do. I always enjoy it, guys. Great to be back on with you. Yeah, have a good weekend.
You too. Stay safe. Thanks, Blake. That's Blake Lovell joining us from Southeastern 16. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Well, needless to say, with the weather coming in, everybody is going to be conscious. If you're a homeowner, a business owner, of what's going on with your roof, and hopefully no ice, no limbs come through the roof. But that's why you have folks like Noto Roofing, a great locally owned and operated roofing company. Sammy and Matt, they're the owners, they're brothers, and they're great people. Known them forever. They're going to take care of you. They're professional. When you call Noto Roofing, Sammy is actually going to answer the phone. Matt will come out to your home along with Chris, who has been in the roofing industry for almost 3 decades. Chris will walk the house. He's going to be very honest and open about what he finds. They're going to let you know if your roof doesn't need anything. They're not going to try to sell you a roof if you're perfectly good. They're honest, hardworking guys that are built on reputation, and they're going to do it right. They offer free inspections to all of our Jocks listeners. Warranties are available, and they'll work alongside the insurance company, and they will assist in every way that they can. It's Noto Roofing. Get the inspection, if for nothing else, the peace of mind. Or if you're replacing the roof on your home, repairing the roof on your home, or you just need the inspection and that peace of mind, you can do it. Noto Roofing, 205-848-2299. Or go to notoroofing.com. That's N-O-T-O roofing.com. And always tell them Landrum from Jocks sent you. We'll continue. We'll get an update from Kyle Parmley, what's going on with the AHSAA in Montgomery. All of that and more. The Friday edition of 3 Man Front continues on Jocks.
12:23 on this Friday. Welcome back in. Please stay weather aware this weekend. SEC basketball, a couple of games have been moved up. Still in Northwest Arkansas, where they're expecting about a foot of snow, not over-exaggerating, about a foot of snow. The Arkansas-LSU game still scheduled to tip at 7:30. Locals are telling me via text message that they're just hoping that a very large student contingency will show up because the students will be stuck on campus.
Well, at least Ty Richardson will get to play some snow golf because I'm sure he'll find a way to end up on the course regardless of the weather. But yeah, stay weather aware this weekend. And of course, we know it's cold. Flu season's still around, and our friends at Train are here to help you out. So they can make your home healthier thanks to their Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. It's 100 times more effective than standard air filters and 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. So go find a dealer near you today online at Train.com.
All right, so we've already had the SEC full football schedule that has been released for 2026. Coming up on Monday, the ACC football schedule will be announced. That will be on the ACC network. And then on Tuesday, on the Big Ten network, you'll get the Big Ten schedule. So everybody kind of falling in line with the SEC. SEC, of course, had theirs back weeks ago, but now you'll get the ACC on Monday. Big Ten football schedule will be released on Tuesday. We're going to join Kyle Parmley in about 10 minutes. He's down live in Montgomery, Alabama from Starnes Media. He covers high school sports for Starnes Media. Also is a contributor to Three Man Front during the football season on Fridays as he gives us previews and details about the wonderful football world that we live in high school here in the state of Alabama. He's been boots on the ground, and he will give us the very latest with the reclassification, a lot of moving parts, as there now is officially a split between the public and private institutions, and that has caused social media firestorm across our state. It has been a hot topic of discussion. We welcome your text.
Just get along.
Oh, man, are you kidding me? No. And in case you missed it,
No.
And we're waiting for Nate Oats. He's going to meet with the media here in just a couple of minutes, and he will give us a little bit more indication of how the whole Charles Bediako situation came together. And will he play him tomorrow? All that kind of fun stuff. It's also been reported, and this was reported by Michael Casagrande at AL.com yesterday, that the judge who granted the temporary restraining order for Charles Bediako to be eligible to play is an Alabama booster. Why is that shocking people? He lives in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I don't.
Patty should be a Shelton State guy.
Well, I just. And then people are saying, well, you know, the judge that originally ruled in the Mensa case, you know, him and his wife, they're Duke, but he recused himself. So this guy should have recused himself.
What do you expect?
I mean, like, he recuses himself. Do you not think that there's another judge?
I was about to say, you don't think there's anybody else that could get, this is the only guy?
Forget about the fact. Forget about the fact. Okay, he's filing in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Let's say that the guy's an Alabama fan, but him and his wife hadn't given $250,000. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, they'd find a an 8 at a tailgate.
Everyone's going to assume that you're an Alabama.
He's ever been involved.
Hey, if there's death, taxes, and home, we expect home cooking.
On the Trinidad Chambliss, trust that it's legitimate, that the judge that potentially is going to be the one that's going to rule walks around all the time wearing an Ole Miss collared polo.
And you don't think it's intentional that that's the person they went to? Like,
lawyers shop judges all the time.
Of course they do.
It happens no matter what the suit is. It could be a divorce situation. It could be a slander case. It could be whatever. They're going to shop for a judge or a courtroom that they feel like they have the best chance of winning.
But I'll remind though, if you hate this, then maybe you should invite this, because the more of this type of stuff that continues to happen, the quicker maybe we get to reform and resolution.
Alabama's the martyr. They're taking one for the team. And by the team, I mean all of America.
In 2026,
America's
Alabama
team,
basketball
Alabama.
coach Nate Oats was a pioneer for the future of intercollegiate athletics when he brought back Charles Bediako.
It's just funny because it was reported by Michael Casagrande yesterday about the money that the judge allegedly gave to the University of Alabama as a so-called, I guess you would call him a booster if he gave money, right? I guess. Meanwhile, Front Office Sports ran a story about an hour ago. Big story.
He's also a Samford law grad.
Big story about this. He's a six-figure donor of the Crimson Tide, and he's the one that is going to allow him to play. And then Jason Shearer, who we've had on the show before, he covers the Arizona Wildcats. He just tweeted out a couple minutes ago, this is literally conflict of interest. Oh, well, thank you, Jason, for chiming in, Captain Obvious. So that's what gets me is all these people nationally just going crazy about this.
Let's find a judge that hates Alabama.
Yeah, that would
make
serve
everybody
the
happy,
client.
right?
Yeah.
Let's find a judge that hates Alabama.
I think the funniest part for me over the last few days, and I don't know if y'all have noticed it too, and maybe we're just fortunate because we talk about it a lot, right? But the amount of people that are just now figuring out, wait, the NCAA can't do anything about this? Like the amount of talk I've seen on social media, people like, why is the NCAA not stepping in and stopping that? Because they can't.
They can't.
And there's a lot of people that are just now starting to understand, oh, the SEC or the NCAA really, it's nothing. Outside the tournament, there's not a lot going on there.
I thought it would be great, and we'll do it later on in the show, but just to see if there was a projection yet on Bediako at Prize Picks. There's not.
No.
Oh, there's not.
No, I've already got all those numbers. There's Vegas.
Oh, is there?
Oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna
Just
get
not
into
Prize
that.
Picks yet.
We're gonna get in Pat Ponders, but yeah, I've got the numbers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
My guess is 4.5,
I was gonna guess
5.5
like
would
five
be
and a half
projected.
points. Yeah, because his average was 6 before.
Does he get a block?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, he can just stand out there like this for 40 minutes. He'll
Just
get a
brace
block.
yourself, and I'm kind of hoping it happens if he sets an SEC record for blocks in a game.
All right, Kyle Parmley tells me he is ready to go, so we're
good.
going to run down to Montgomery when we come back on Three Man Front. Get the very latest on the Alabama High School Athletic Association. That's next. Welcome back in, three-man front on this Friday. It has been a very busy Friday. We will monitor Nate Oats as he is speaking to the media momentarily down in Tuscaloosa as the Charles Bediako situation continues to inflame the college basketball intelligentsia across the world. They just can't believe it.
Do you think did Kenny Chesney play high school football?
I don't know. Maybe Kyle Parmley knows.
Maybe he would have
about it.
He would have played like that 8-man football.
Kyle Parmley from Starnes Media has been hanging out in Montgomery all day long. He probably spent the night there last night. He's been anxiously awaiting this meeting this morning. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, guys. One thing I can tell you, Kenny Chesney did not play AA private school football in Alabama because that's a brand new thing that's coming.
All right. Listen, Kyle, you laid it all out for us on Tuesday at Social Taco, and you did an outstanding job kind of giving us a Cliff Note version of what potentially was going to happen. So for those that are just now tuned in, could you give them, I guess, the briefest route possible of what took place this morning?
Sure. Well, every 2 years, the AHSAA announces their reclassification for the upcoming 2 school years. And for the past, I guess we've been at about 40 years. There's been, in the mid 80s, there was a 1 through 6A, and then in 2014, they added a 7A. So there's been 7 classifications of, all the high school athletics programs in AHSAA, including public and private schools. However, with today's reclassification announcement, for the first time in the association's history, they are splitting up the public and private schools. So now we're about to have 6 public school classifications and 2 private school classifications. So basically what you knew as 7A, those 32 schools will effectively now be 6A, and then you'll still have 1A through 5A, and then all 50 some odd private schools that compete in AHSAA competition will be split up into 2 classifications. There's like the 17 largest are in what they're calling AA private school, and then the rest of them are in single A private school. So a monumental change in the landscape of high school athletics in the state, to be sure.
Anonymous, of course, but how many high school coaches that you've talked to have been in favor of this decision, and how many are against it?
I'll be honest. The people associated with private schools that I know of are not thrilled with this. Now, the caveat being, if you're aware of how the high school sports work in Alabama, there is the AISA, the Independent School Association, that several of the smaller private schools statewide compete in. Now, those schools don't compete against AHSAA programs. Those are kind of split up. However, Executive Director Heath Harmon said this morning, even though they're splitting up public and private schools when it comes to regions and competition and all that, they'll still be able to play each other in regular season competition. But at the same time, it does kind of feel hollow because now they're not competing for the same trophy. So it's, I think, as you go, the public schools, they're not, they're kind of just, as is, their regions change, their classifications change, whatever. But this is a major, major change to the way that private schools that are in the athletic association, this is a major change for them. Their playoffs are going to look drastically different, and region play, and we've kind of talked about how spread out private schools are in the state, and that's going to make things a lot different and pretty difficult on a lot of them, I would imagine.
And that's where I wanted to ask you from the difficulty as far as, and they operate differently than public schools in most cases, but as far as the type of student athlete that you could attract to your school, are they worried about that because of the breakup and not playing for the same blue map?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing to consider. It definitely, they're not thrilled about it, but I mean, the way that the association views it is, I mean, for the last 25 years, there's been this sort of, trying to attempt to balance things out. In the late 90s, they introduced the private school multiplier, where each student counts as 1.35 for private schools. And then, several years ago, they instituted a competitive balance measures that, moved schools up, depended on their success in certain sports. But it's just the private schools as far as like students, I don't think that's necessarily a huge concern, but it is just from a quality of competition. It's just like now you're limiting the field so severely, and it's almost it feels like they feel like there's going to be a clear distinction of like the haves and have-nots, and like I said, like the upper division in football and volleyball is going to be 16 or 17 schools
Oh, wow.
throughout the whole state, and like they're going to be in their own little class. It's just it's a big difference from being in a classification with 64 some odd schools that you're competing against and in the same area and region. So it's going to make things a lot different. And like you said, they operate differently anyways. But I mean, if you just want to take like a football region, for example, now you're looking at, Briarwood and John Carroll in the Birmingham area are going to be in the same football region as Lee Scott Academy, Wade in Southeast Alabama, and Madison Academy and Randolph in North Alabama. Like that is, that's a bear for schools like that to even think about. Like those are going to be their region games now.
Amazing. Kyle Parmley joining us for a few more minutes from Starnes Media down in Montgomery, covering a historic day in this state when it comes to high school athletics. I got to ask you, back to the private public split here, is there the potential, and I know that Alabama High School Athletic Association has now created that section of just private schools. Are the private schools, I know you told Landrum they're not very happy about it. Is there potential there for them to maybe go off and do their own thing? Or are they going to be, lockstep with whatever Asha decided today?
This is certainly, not based on any concrete conversations that I've had, but I definitely think what you just laid out is a possibility. I think there's certainly some institutions that are going to be adamantly opposed to this and come forth with the idea of, well, if this is what y'all are doing, then what do we need to be in the association for? Why wouldn't we just kind of go off and do our own thing and make our own rules? I mean, and like if you see, like Will Ainsworth's already put out a statement this morning about how much he disagrees with the new division of all this. So you certainly, we've talked about it, like the way that lawmakers have kind of gotten involved in all this, and today's announcement certainly didn't. It certainly was not the AHSA, trying to alleviate any any concerns. They just kind of went forward with what they were, shooting for with this reclassification cycle, and just went forth with it. But yeah, I think this is certainly not the last that we've heard of this in terms of how the private schools feel about it. I don't think they're going to, by any means, just kind of fall in line and not let their opinion be heard.
How much does the potential postseason change with the regions, the different sizes and different regions, and how many teams are chosen that qualify for the playoffs? Does that change at all?
That is absolutely an interesting part of this conversation that really hasn't been had yet. There are certainly some ideas that have been floated about. When we talk about what we've talked about for years, how especially 7A coaches have wanted the playoff format tweaked in certain manners, whether it be how many teams make the playoffs or how they're seeded or things like that. And now with that being 6A, with 6A being the 32 largest schools, there's still some conversations that have even gone on in recent days about the desire for what their playoff format should look like. So there's another board meeting here in the next 2 to 3 weeks that will that they've told us today that'll be the time when they kind of sit down and approve those new playoff brackets, whether it's just kind of status quo the way that it's been going, or if some of the ideas floated about could be put into practice. For example, like it doesn't seem that the private school side of the postseason has really been determined, but the public school side will probably look largely the same, but the brackets for those need to be kind of set in stone, and they'll do that. Today was a day where they lay out the classifications and they tell the schools where they are, But um, but as far as region and area alignments, we only got the fall sports today. So winter sports and spring sports and how all those will come at a later date. But obviously, the one that people care the most about is how football will look. And so we've got the regions for all those, but we don't have a playoff set up necessarily yet, because there could be some changes to 6A, with it being the 32 schools. So we'll have to see in a couple of weeks when they reconvene and really put pen to paper on that.
All right. So obviously doing a live radio show and trying to do what I can during a commercial break, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, because typically outside of the politics that's been going on between the private and the public institutions, typically every 2 years we're talking about, okay, well, this team or this school, I should say, moved up in classification. This school moved down in classification. And now that 6A is the largest classification, if I'm looking at this properly, it appears that Austin and Hillcrest out of Tuscaloosa, they are dropping down to now 5A, whereas Gadsden City and Spain Park are moving from the second highest classification to the highest. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, yeah, you got that. As far as the Birmingham area schools that I cover, the only real change that I saw was Spain Park. Spain Park had been playing in 6A the last 2 years, so they're jumping back up into the largest classification. So they will be in 6A along with, and they're back in that region with the big guns like Hewitt, Trussville, Hoover, Thompson, Vestavia, all them. So Spain Park's back with the large schools, and then now, like you said, Austin is now a 5A school, and now you got to get used to saying Chelsea, Homewood, Mountain Brook, Clay Chalkville. Those are all 5A schools now.
Right.
So, yeah, it's gonna take some getting used to for sure, because it's hard that we've been talking like how do you word this, like Spain Park went from a 6A to a 6A, but they moved back up. I don't know how do you make the words make sense, but yes, Spain Park jumped up. They're back in the largest class.
If Region 3 is all the teams that I think it's going to be, then I would say it'd be safe. Just make 6 of your top teams out of that region playoff teams.
Oh my gosh, I know, absolutely.
It feels like year to year you'd be safe in just sending 6 from that region.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, it's take Hillcrest out, put Spain Park in. That really doesn't diminish the competitiveness by any stretch.
No, not at all. Well, Kyle, listen, I know it's been a long morning, long day. Done an outstanding job covering this, as you always typically do for Starnes Media, and appreciate you keeping us updated down there in Montgomery. Have a safe travel back to the Ham, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's Kyle Parmley. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. Are you seeing cracks in your foundation? Are your doors and windows sticking? These aren't just minor problems. They're signs of a serious issue that will only get worse over time. You need to protect your home. You need to call Alabama Professional Services at 205-951-9717. The pros, they really know their stuff. They'll inspect your foundation, clearly explain the problem, and give you an honest, pressure-free solution. They can fix your foundation and even tackle that sinking driveway or patio with their fast and clean poly-level system. Get started today. Call them at 205-951-9717 or simply go to their website, alabamaprofessional.com.
Big takeaway is what Kyle just told us from Montgomery. Your reaction as well. The Friday edition of 3-Man Front rolls on Jocks.
What a week. Starts off, Indiana wins the national
Is
championship.
it 2027?
And now Charles Bediako is.
Oh, my gosh.
This audio is going to be gold a little bit later. I can give you some quotes from Nate Oats if you guys are ready for this.
Does he drop an F-bomb?
No.
Okay.
He says that Alabama has a roster spot open, so Charles Bediako is not taking a spot off the roster from a high school kid.
Check.
He says, we are planning to play Charles Bediako. He's eligible to play. We're going to follow the court orders.
I've been really disappointed if he's like, we're going to hold him out.
He said that Charles Bediako sat next to James Njai, who we know is the Baylor player. He says Bediako sat next to James Njai at the draft a few years back. Njai was drafted. Bediako was not. So he's just pointing out the obvious.
Yes.
He also says that the team's reaction to Charles Bediako, our players are trying to win. Their goals are high. Charles is going to contribute to them winning. He's a great guy. He's an unbelievable teammate. Oats also says that Bediako practiced today. Oats said Alabama can play Bediako and Sherrell together. He says that basketball needs come up with the system that doesn't give preferential treatment to international players. So that you keep hearing that this week because once again, you look at UConn's roster. They got a player that played 4 years of European basketball in a professional league, and now he's got 2 years of eligibility playing for Dan Hurley.
That's where a lot of these coaches have gone to the transfer portal, the guys that can afford it.
Yeah. Oats was asked about his concern about the NCAA retaliation. His response? No, none. Also, he says the NIL money when Charles left is not near what it is now. So what do you think, Conrad? You're in there beating your chest. You're pretty fired up over your basketball coach. You like what he's saying, don't you? Are you buying what he's selling?
What was the question you asked us yesterday, Pat, about why people don't like Nate Oats?
Because he's my cousin Vinny. Is that what you're talking about?
Again, this is the kind of stuff I love it, right? The way that he's answering the question, he's very clearly sending a message with the way he's being a smart ass answering the questions.
I would like to read off for those of you who are not well versed on basketball rosters for this season. I would like to read off Arizona.
Okay.
Really good team.
Really good team.
I just want to go hometowns where these guys are from.
Oh boy.
All right. First one, Jaden Bradley. We remember him.
Mm-hmm.
Transfer from Alabama. Next, Netherlands.
Okay.
The next, Melbourne, Australia.
All right.
How about Munich, Germany? Oxford, England. Lithuania. Senegal. South Sudan. And France.
But it's not fair to these high school kids that aren't getting opportunities because
no,
of Charles Bediako.
not at all. That's what I'm saying.
And this one guy looks old enough to be my brother.
I mean, these people are so hypocritical. They're all liars anyway. Why does it shock any of us?
So that's what's going on. If you didn't know that college basketball was there, it's there, and that's the international flavor that Nate Oats was referencing. And
Hey.
it is a double standard.
Hey, Coach Oates, are you concerned about any NCAA retaliation? No.
Nope.
None.
He's got that TRO, baby. He's good to go.
He's already gotten the word the NCAA later on today. They're just going to close the doors. Just, you know what? We're done. We had a good run. What in the world is Jim Cantori doing?
He apparently is doing a live hit right now on ESPN
In a bathrobe.
In a bathrobe.
That looks like a hotel bathrobe,
Oh,
too.
well,
Is this going to be his live shot this year instead of a helmet? He's just going to go out there butt naked.